Eu acho que é qualquer da...
Fica na região do Paraná, na
Não vai,
verdade.
né? Não é capaz, não.
Foz do Iguaçu fica na Argentina, mas eu acho que é mais...
Da Argentina.
Isso, na região mais do Paraguai, Paraná e...
This would be the kind of thing that I would get and hold until bring out on Christmas Day or a special anniversary or something like that. In the past, I may or may not have brought snacks with me to enjoy with my wine, but they say specifically in there that you're not supposed to bring food out here. This is Palmela, Portugal, not Pamela, Palmela. And unless you're really deep into wine or you live in this region like we do, you've probably never heard of this as a wine region, but there's some great wines coming out of this area, this whole region of Setubal, this particular area of Palmela. And so I thought we'd do a video today visiting some of my favorite places in Palmela and sampling some of the wines. So first of all, where are we? Well, we're a little bit south of Lisbon, and if you're coming here from Lisbon, and if you're a tourist, if you're a visitor, that's probably where you're coming from. It's pretty easy to get here. You just take the train from Lisbon, you get off at the Palmela train station, and from there, it's kind of a long walk because the train station's a bit out of town. So you can take an Uber or a taxi, you know, or you can drive from Lisbon. But if you decide to drive, remember, don't drink and drive. Can't believe I have to say that, but let me say that. Don't drink and drive. So this is Quinta do Piloto. And you're probably going to hear the vineyard dogs barking in the background. They've got 3 dogs here at the vineyard because all good vineyards have a vineyard dog. But Quinta do Piloto is my favorite winery in Palmela. And so I thought we'd start off with this one. One of the reasons I like it a lot is because of the views. So behind me, you can see some of their vineyard, and on a clear day, you can see all the way over to Lisbon. It's a little bit hazy today. You probably can't see it, but trust me, it's gorgeous views. And even if it's a little bit hazy like today, you still have beautiful views. Now, this location is interesting because we're on top of a hill, and last year there were wildfires in Palmela, and they burned quite a bit of the area. They burned a whole valley by the castle. They burned several homes. Luckily, no one was hurt. A few animals died, though. And it was scary. I remember we were in our apartment in Setubal, which is several miles away, and there was smoke everywhere, and the sky was red. And there were planes flying over our apartment to get to the water, to go to the ocean, pick up water, and dump it on the wildfires. They finally got them out. But the reason I'm telling you about that is because right here is where the fire ended. I don't know why. I mean, the fire came literally to this ridge and stopped. And last year, when we came out here after the fire, the folks who worked at the vineyard, they said they were evacuated and it was scary. But in the aftermath, everything was black and was burned. And then there was this wall, maybe 3 feet high, that surrounds the vineyard. And then that's it. The vineyard itself was green and saved. It was extraordinary, really, considering all the damage that was done. But anyway, the vineyard survived, thank goodness, because we wouldn't be, you know, who knows what the damage could have been. It would have been ugly. But anyway, the vineyard was saved, and we're here to enjoy some of the wine. So I thought first I would show you a little bit of the vineyard. We'll go inside, we'll get a glass, and then I'll show you where I like to sit and enjoy a glass of wine here at Quinta do Piloto. So I got a glass of wine from the little wine shop here, and so you might be wondering, how much did this cost? This is their reserve. This is one of their top bottles, and a glass of wine here was €3.50. You heard that right, 3.50. That's the thing about the wines from this region, is that they are incredibly affordable for the most part. Sure, there's some expensive ones too, but this is one of the best wineries in Palmela, and you can get a glass of reserve wine for €3.50. Wouldn't matter if the quality's not good. Their wines are very good by and large. So that's one thing about this region that, you know, it's starting to get a little bit of press. I saw recently an article where they called Setubal, which Palmela is part of the Setubal region, the number 2, I think either up and coming or undiscovered wine region. I can't remember which. But, you know, once people start discovering it, prices are going to go up. I remember, you know, when you could get a nice bottle from Puglia for, you know, a couple of euros. Those days are long gone now that people have discovered it. Same thing with cava from Spain. You know, you could get a bottle of cava for $3 in the US at one time. Those days are long gone. So anyway, get these while they're still cheap. I have the feeling they're going to be cheap for a while. Anyway, this particular reserve is 100% Castelão. You might read it as Castello grapes. And this is a widely planted grape in this area, in this region, because it loves sandy soil, it loves the hot weather, and it does very well here. The thing about Castelão is that it can be very harsh and tannic when it's young. So that's why I like to get the reserve, because it's been aged. So this is a 2019. Really dark, plummy, you know, dark berries. That's nice. There's still some tannins in there. I might even like that aged a little bit longer, but still really nice. I imagine this would be nice with some cheese. But they got these picnic tables out here. You're not supposed to bring food. In the past, I may or may not have brought snacks with me to enjoy with my wine, but they say specifically in there that you're not supposed to bring food out here. That said, this is one of my favorite places to come. Whenever we have friends in town, we try to bring them up here because, first of all, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful views. The wines are outstanding, and in this region, this particular bottle is widely available. You go to a wine shop in our city of Setubal, you'll find Quinta do Piloto there, and it's very reasonably priced, very inexpensive. So you can, even the reserve, you can drink on a daily basis. So it's real nice. Behind me, if you see that big white building, that's the production facility. That's where they do the bottling and the labeling and put them in boxes and stuff like that. They don't do that up here, even though there are vineyards up here and there are vineyards down below. Down there is where they do that. And you can get a tour of this place. I've never done the tour. I imagine it would be very interesting. There's also an event space. I think people do, you know, corporate meetings and marriages there, and you can stay overnight. And I have to imagine overnight here would be absolutely gorgeous, watching the sunset and, you know, sitting out here by yourself as it gets dark with a bottle of wine would be a very enjoyable experience. Okay, so that's it for Quinta do Piloto, and we'll head off to our next spot on our wine crawl here in Palmela, Portugal. This is the Palmela Castle, and this is the probably the #1 tourist attraction in all of Palmela. You know, there have been people here, humans in this area since the Iron Age, maybe 10,000 years ago. So undoubtedly, they took advantage of being on top of this high hill for strategic purposes, you know, to watch out for other Iron Age tribes trying to come and knock their skulls in. So undoubtedly they made use of this, but it wasn't until the Romans came 2,000 years ago that they built a real fort up here. At least that's the earliest evidence that we have of a fort. And then when the Muslim Caliphate took over in the 8th century, They expanded the Roman fort, strengthened it, enlarged it. And then when the Christian Reconquista came in a few centuries later, they built more on top of it and expanded it even more. And that's mostly what you see here. What I'm sitting on, most of this is from the Christian Reconquista. Although, if you look around, there's little exhibits and museums in this castle, in this fortress, from the Muslim period and also from the Roman period. So that's interesting to see. The other reason you want to come up here is the spectacular views. You can see all the way up to Lisbon from here, and you can see all the way south to our city of Setubal, and even past the Sado and into Troia and Alentejo. So that's nice. Today, it's a beautiful sunny day. There's a few puffy clouds, but there's a little bit of haze here, so the view isn't as good as it can be. It's still pretty freaking nice. But I'll tell you, what I like best about this, not only the history, but the ancient history, but the more recent history, because in the 20th century, especially during the fascist period, this was used as a communication center for the Portuguese military. And they've got a little museum dedicated to that up in the top floor of the tower here that's just absolutely fascinating, because you see some of the original equipment that they used. There's things like semaphore flags. Back in the day, you know, when they used semaphore flags to communicate over long distances. There's bicycles that powered generators that powered radio equipment to allow for communication. So that's really fascinating to come and see this. And best of all, it's free to get in. All you got to do is get yourself up here. You can take an Uber or a Bolt, or you can walk up here. Like I said, it's the high ground, so it's a pretty steep hill, but it's well worth your time to come up here. And you know, it's nice to have a break from all this wine tasting that we're going to be doing today. We're at the House of the Mother of Wine in Palmela, great name. As we were coming down from the castle, we ran into a friend of ours, so we stopped for a little snack at this cool little restaurant. Again, amazing views there. They had a terrace overlooking the valley here, and they had a disco ball on the terrace, so you knew it was going to be good. Just had a little snack, got to visit with our friend Olga. It was very nice. Then we walked down here, just a 5-minute walk, and so if you have limited time and you want to come to Palmela, I would say you could go to the castle, come down here, because this place has wines from all over the region. All of the best producers are represented here. So this is a place where you can come and try several different wines and not have to go to each individual winery. For me, I like going to the wineries too, because you get to go to the vineyard, you get to see the vineyard dogs, they'll bark at you. But you know, I understand time is often limited. Maybe you want to do other things. Maybe you want to go to Setubal. So this is a good place to stop. Anyway, I got a little flight here with the help of Bruno, advising me on some of the wines. And I got 3 reds and 1 white. White wine is not as prevalent here in the Setubal area in Palmela, but they make good whites. So this one is a blend. In fact, all of these are blends, unlike at Quinta do Piloto, where we got 100% Castelão. These are all blends. And this first one is a white from a winery called Dupo. I've had their wines before. They're good. They're inexpensive. And this is a blend of Fernão-Pires, a white grape, and also Muscat. Both of probably the 2 most popular white grapes that are grown here in this region. So this is a blend of those 2. Very fruity, not acidic at all. Apricot, that's nice. I do like that. All right, let's move on to a red before we take a little break here. I'll have to look up who this producer is. I did take a picture of all these, but I don't have them memorized. But that one definitely has some Castelão in it. I think this is the one that Bruno said was aged in oak. Oak aging does well to take a bit of the tannins off of the Castelão grape. So that's what they did. This is a reserve, so it has been aged for a little while, and it's quite tasty. I think that would benefit from a little bit of decanting, but it's very nice. Great thing about this place, not only do they offer wines from all over, the folks behind the counter are very knowledgeable. They have snacks as well, and I'll tell you about this special tart that I got in a minute or two. But the other thing that's nice is outside they have this huge patio, and it's part of a huge terrace that overlooks some of the prime area of Palmela. And today's a beautiful day. We could have sat out there. It was a little bit warm for drinking wine, and the ambiance inside is really nice. But it is really, really nice out there, and you can get some spectacular views, great pictures, and it's a nice place to hang out as well. This next one's from Monte do Largo. This is another winery here in Palmela. And again, this is a blend. I think that's Cabernet and Castelão. It's a nice red table wine. This is also from Dupo, same as this one. And this is a blend of Syrah, Alicante Bouchet, I think is how you pronounce it, and Castelão. So that's nice because you get the red berry, the jamminess of the Castelão, and then the Alcacete has almost a smokiness to it. You can see, Karen pointed out how deep red this color is, and you can see that there. That's nice. Dupo. Gonna have to go to their winery and check out some more of their wines. They're not expensive. They're very reasonably priced. So I think before I try this last one, we'll try our tart here. Now this, they call this one a bocage, and I had to get it because today is the city holiday of Setubal, the town where we live. We're not in Setubal, we're in Palmela, the next town over. But they had a tart under a cake glass called the bocage tart. And today is Bocage Day. It's the holiday for Bocage. Bocage was a poet from the 19th century, and he was born in Setubal. He was made famous in Setubal, although he's known throughout Portugal. I saw a statue of him in Lisbon, as a matter of fact. But when I saw this bocage tart that they had, I said it must be fate. Today's Bocage Day, and we live in Setubal, so I had to get this. And I got to say, there's some heft to this. I don't know what's on the inside because it's all covered with powdered sugar. So, excuse me if I get powdered sugar all over my face. But in fact, I think I'll break this apart. This is just going to be an absolute mess. Maybe I shouldn't have broken it apart. Maybe this was a bad idea. So that has some egg custard in it, but it's not as creamy as a pastel de nata. I would say maybe they added, am I tasting some almonds in there? Maybe they added some almonds in there to kind of thicken it up a little bit. Really nice. That powdered sugar is a really nice touch to it. Tasty. Maybe it has some lemon in there too. Anyway. This last wine is from Comporta, and Comporta is the peninsula directly across from Setubal. It's actually not in the Setubal region, it's not in the Lisbon region, it's in the Alentejo region, but it is right across the river from Setubal. But it's on a peninsula, so it has the effect of the grapes getting that marine air on a daily basis. This Comporta wine perhaps it's the effect of having that tart, but this one tastes sweeter, I think. But it's a nice wine. That tart's really good. So I would say this. Again, if you're crushed for time, come here. This is a place where you can sample a ton of wines. You can buy bottles too. And it's not expensive. For all of these, $7.50. For 5 different tastings. Now, these are not healthy taste pours. They're small. But I didn't want a big pour, because we're going to several places. And if you want to get a full glass, you can go and do that as well. They also have more extravagant tastings here where you can get it with a charcuterie board or a cheese board or whatever. Look at this thing. I'm putting powdered sugar all over this table. So there's lots of different options for what you want to do. And if you want to take a bottle home with you, bottles are inexpensive. I think Karen said she saw a bottle of Fernando Po for €3 or €4 or something. So the bottles are, the prices can go higher than that, but the bottles are very, very reasonable in price. So highly recommend if you're coming to Palmela, come to this place and do your tasting, and you'll get a wide variety of wines, not very expensive, and not have to travel too far either. We're in Venancio de Costa Lima. We're actually just outside of Palmela. This is in Quinta de Anjo. It's just like 5-10 minute ride from Palmela. And this winery is famous for their muscatel. If you saw my video on muscatel, I did a muscatel tasting all over Setubal. And if you didn't see it, let me explain to you what muscatel is. So muscatel is generally from 2 different grapes, one called Rocho, which means purple, and another grape whose name I can't pronounce, that they make the muscatel from. But if you're familiar with port wine, so if you know anything about Portuguese wine, you probably have heard of port. Muscatel is similar in that it's a fortified wine, meaning you do the fermentation of the grapes and then you stop the fermentation early by adding a distilled spirit. In the case of this, it's called aguardente, and that's a spirit that's distilled from grape skins and seeds and stems and whatnot. And once that stops, that's added, it kills the yeast that's in the fermentation and stops the fermentation cold. Because of that, there's some sugar left, because when you're fermenting wine, the yeast is eating the sugar. That's how it stays alive. But when you make muscatel, you stop that fermentation early, you leave some sugar in there. That's why it tastes sweet. So there's a little primer on muscatel. Anyway, we're here today to sample a few of their different muscatels. This first one, this is a younger one. It's only 4 years old, from 2019. And this is the most common kind of muscatel that if you go to your local cafe in Setubal or Palmela, this is generally what you'll see served. So it's young, and it has the sweetness, and you can taste the beginnings of that caramel starting to express itself, but not quite yet. And it's lovely to have this at the end of the meal, although in my town, in Setubal, I see the old guys sitting at cafes at 9 in the morning drinking one of these with a coffee next to it and maybe a treat like a pastel de nata. But anyway, you'll see this on menus all over the place in Setubal, and it's very inexpensive. Next up is one that's been aged a little bit longer. Now, compare the colors here. You can see how that one has a little bit of darkness to it, but still it's almost a straw color. When we get to this that's been aged in wood, you get more of a caramel color. Look how dark that is now. To me, that is spectacular. It is so good. You get more of the caramel, less of the sweetness. You can taste the oak that's been aged in. Really nice. This would be perfect after dinner with maybe a piece of dark chocolate or, you know, even maybe some cheese or something like that might be nice with it. All right, I'm going to save this for later. You'll know why in a moment. This one, so those two were made with the original grapes. This is made with the Roxo, which is Roxo just means purple, R-O-X-O. It's not a purple grape, although the skin can have, it's a white grape, the skin can have little purple dots on it. But anyway, this is a really nice one too. That has definitely has some sweetness to it, but some nice caramel. I do like this one a lot. And in general, I like the Roxo. But then there's this one. You got to see this bottle. This has been aged, it says 30 on here, it's actually been aged 40 years. She brought this one out special for us. She only has one bottle left. I don't know if I'm going to buy it or not. But anyway, you smell that. Now you're starting to really get some alcohol, some oaky notes in here. When I taste it, I feel like I'm almost tasting a cognac. It is really, really special. This would be the kind of thing that I would get and hold until bring out on Christmas Day or a special anniversary or something like that. Goes for about 50 euros, but totally worth it. Just absolutely spectacular. So these are the different ones they have. They're award-winning, they're very special. And if you come to the Setubal Peninsula, you have to do a Muscatel tasting. I would recommend coming here and trying your Muscatel. So that'll do it for our wine crawl through Palmela, Portugal. And as you can see, bought a few bottles from Venancio de Costa Lima, which was our last stop. Karen talked me out of buying the 50 euro bottle of 40-year aged Muscatel, but I did buy a couple of nice bottles, some that we'll drink right away, some that we'll save for later. If you're thinking of coming down to Palmela, I gotta say it's definitely worth it. There's lots of places in Palmela to try. We didn't hit all of them by any means, and it's a very affordable wine region, well worth your time. If you're going on a day trip from Lisbon, it's easy to get there, so worth your time. We'll be doing more wine crawls in this region in later videos. And if you like this kind of stuff, then like and subscribe to the channel. I also have a podcast. Every week I'm in a new place all over the world, talking to folks about their cities, about dishes and drinks. Not exclusively wine, but sometimes we talk about wine. And of course, I got the website, destinationeatdrink.com. That's got lots of foodie travel stuff as well. Thanks for watching. See you down the road.
Fica na região do Paraná, na
do Uruguai,
verdade.
né? Não, não é capaz, não.
Foz do Iguaçu
Essa
fica
parte
na
é-
Argentina, mas eu acho que é mais
Foi da Argentina, pô.
Isso, na região mais do Paraguai, Paraná e Argentina. Na parte de Porto Alegre.
É um clima assim mais fresco, né? É qualquer
Fica na região do Paraná,
do
na
Uruguai,
verdade.
né? Não é capaz, não.
Foz do Iguaçu
Essa
fica
parte
na
é-
Argentina, mas eu acho que é mais
Foi da Argentina, pô.
Isso, na região mais do Paraguai, Paraná e Argentina.